The term mentally ill is a dirty word. It conjures images of Jeffrey Dahmer, Jack the Ripper, and Waco Massacre. The real term is mentally disabled. And I'm only mentally disabled from PTSD. As a child, I was raped in the system because my parents wouldn't stay off the drugs. And I got the mentally ill treatment. When I went to police about these issues, I got the mentally ill treatment. That's why I've been trying to get an advocate, so that I don't get the mentally ill treatment. Instead of looking at the evidence, I got the mentally ill treatment. Instead of looking at the evidence, I got shipped off to hospital after hospital after hospital to be drugged and drugged and drugged some more. I didn't need to be drugged. I needed someone to do something about the abuse. But because of the term mentally ill, all of my abusers were able to use that term to get away with it, to prevent me from showing that evidence. When I went in with Molly Smith, I'd already tried to speak to officers in your department on multiple occasions, including speaking to you. The reason that I needed Molly Smith to go in with me was to force you guys to take a look at evidence. Now, because Miss Molly couldn't go in with me again, I had to find other ways to try to force you guys to look at it, including running through town, honking my horn like a fucking nut job. Waiting until 10 o'clock at night so that I knew that people's kids weren't going to be running out in the middle of the road, speeding down Main Street, and then slamming on my brakes. I had a meltdown and put all of my papers in the middle of the road outside of the Rusty Bucket. And Jace Jepson came and picked me up from that. When Cody Sellhorse tried to scare me out of town, Jace Jepson came and rescued me from that. When you came and spoke to me at Pumpkin Pantry, Jace Jepson was there for that. And that's not all he was there for. He was there for moral support when I fucking needed it. He got to see evidence that you guys wouldn't look at. He knows what Ted did because he looked at the evidence. Him and his little sister and Zach Ramsey. The thing is, when I tried to make a statement about that, about the situation with your officers, and all of the illegal activities that I had to do in order to try to force an honest court date, I shouldn't have had to do any of that. When Jen Beebe came in, I needed her to be there and present when I made a statement about your officers, about their conduct. I needed her to do that. She had her own agenda when she showed up based on what your officers had told her. I actually committed those crimes. I actually was driving through town the way that I was. And yes, it's illegal. And yes, I knew it was illegal when I did it. But I tried to do it the legal way on multiple occasions before that. When I was shipped to Scotts Bluff instead, and I had to go through all of the hell that I had to go through there, as well as the hell of getting back to Chapel, Nebraska, as well as having to deal with Tara Miller with Officer Hahn there and William Burr there, who literally, after what they did, should not have been there. They should not have had access to me again. That's a state patrol officer and a Dual County Sheriff's deputy who never should have been present for that. I should have had an advocate present for every single occasion that I spoke with the police. But I don't have family, so that didn't get to happen. When the charges were dropped in Chapel, Nebraska over crimes that I actually fucking committed, I was pissed. Because if your department won't investigate it, and the state patrol won't do a damn thing to even lift a finger to try to look at that evidence, then there's a very screwed up situation. I needed to be able to show that evidence. The evidence that was in my telephones. I already know from being in court with Joseph Lopez in that court date that the FBI can't see our email or can't see our text messages. I needed them to see the text messages between me and all of these people, like Mandy Hughes and Alyssa Rainwater. I needed them to see the text messages between myself and Candace Bondurant, especially after the bullshit that Candace Bondurant pulled that put me at even further risk and increased the violence and threats and harassment against me. Candace, who is supposed to be my friend. And Candace won't look at the evidence of what happened to me as a result of that. I needed Officer Hahn to do his job. I needed Cody Selhorst to do his job. I needed Jordan Anderson to do his job. I was pissed off about the charges against me being dropped because in that court date, I could have shown what your officers were doing and why I was pissed off at them and why I had to break the law. I was forced to break the law because your officers wouldn't do their jobs, the jobs that these people in Dual County are paying them to do. Things that happened in this very county involving your officers. And because of the term mentally ill, nobody's going to investigate it. You can do whatever you want to me, and nobody is going to investigate it because of the term mentally ill. That needs to stop. That makes us the number one victimized people in America. The number one victimized people in America are foster children and former foster children, specifically because of that reason. I would have liked to go to you. I really would have. But I need to know that something is going to be done. Jared Hahn didn't investigate anything. He didn't speak to any of the witnesses. Hundreds of the threats against my life I got while I was in Chapel, Nebraska. There are a lot of people in this town who hate me because I was never allowed to defend myself. I was never allowed to show that evidence in court, in any court date. I will have to endure the abuse from that reputation for the rest of my life. Do you know what that's like? To have everything taken from you repeatedly. To have people that you care about very much stab you in the back and steal from you and harass you and threaten you and assault you because you were never allowed to show evidence because the police would not do their jobs. I've been trying to get the FBI involved in this since January of 2018 at the request of Shelley Campbell, one of Natalie's stepmothers. Instead, I get harassed by people. This was on the major news, Mr. DeCosta. It was on the news in Denver, the news station that everybody in Chapel, Nebraska watches because they want to know what the weather's going to be like. And because I was never allowed to defend myself, I was never allowed, no matter where I was at, I was never allowed to show evidence. I was actually threatened by the FBI. Did you know that? Threatened by the FBI for trying to show evidence. Meanwhile, I've tried to do it on the internet like you guys say to do. Well, Sean, you need to get on the internet. No, there's no option for turning in police officers on any police officer webpage. You have a very limited amount of time and a limited amount of space to do it in. And with everything that I am going through, I can't sit down and organize all of this, not physically or mentally. I needed a place to process it all. I've been living in squalor, living with alcoholics and meth addicts, and I have recorded all of this stuff. I've recorded the heroin addicts. I've recorded the meth addicts. I've recorded what it's like for these people coming down from these drugs. These people need help. For me, getting treated like I'm a goddamn druggie because I smoke pot once in a while, that is so fucked up. But you know what? I admit that I smoke pot. And I can tell you honestly, I have zero marijuana in this house. I have zero paraphernalia in this house. Do you know why? It's not just because I can't afford it. It's because I don't want to put other people at risk, which is exactly what happened when your officers did not do their jobs. Other people were put at risk. Jordan Anderson wasn't put at risk by his misconduct. Jared Hahn was not put at risk by his misconduct. Cody Selhorst was not put at risk because of his conduct. When I had Molly Smith go in with me, it's because I'd gone in repeatedly to your office to try to get help. When Jen Beebe came down, that was specifically because I needed what I was trying to tell you about your officers to be documented, to actually be heard. And if she was there, there is more of a chance that your officers are going to turn on their body cam. There's more of a chance that I'll get heard instead of giving the mentally ill treatment. There's a lot of evidence that I can't show you because that evidence was stolen. But there's still plenty that I can still show you. My Facebook still exists. And despite the fact that I have had to start recollecting that evidence on 4 separate occasions, and there's a lot of it, I am still trying. Jared Hahn needs to be placed on administrative leave. He needs to be investigated, and he needs to stay the hell away from me. No, I don't feel safe going into your department and talking to you about those things. That's why I had Molly Smith go in with me. That's why I called Jen Beebe. If I don't have someone present when I am speaking with police, I get the mentally ill treatment. They turn off their cameras and it's their word versus mine. They take full advantage of my disabilities to get away with what they're doing. And a lot of these people are pissed off at me. What the hell is Laurie scared of? Huh? I'm the one being harmed by the things that her and her daughter did. That's why I recorded that shit. Yes, I recorded a phone converse or an actual conversation in person between me and Laurie. Because after what Candace did, she threw me away like a fucking bad habit. Because Candace did wrong shit. I'm the bad guy for cursing, for saying fuck you, for saying cunt. No, I reserve those words for very specific people who do very specific things. If your fucked up bullshit gets somebody hurt, injured, or fucking killed, yes, I'm gonna call you a cunt. And I'm not gonna feel bad for saying it. Between being called a cunt and being put through the shit that I've been through, yeah, somebody who gets called a cunt can kiss my ass. They're not going through this. If Laurie had to deal with this bullshit, which she wouldn't because she's a female, she would at least have people in her corner. She would have people to go down with her to speak to the police. I've been trying to report on your department since before Natalie died. I went over to Brenda Dickinson's on several occasions to speak to her about it. And do you know why nothing happened? Because she has rheumatoid arthritis and she is on medications for rheumatoid arthritis that fuck with her head. And they fuck with her bowels. And I had to hear about her bowels and her negativity the whole time I was there. I have been through no quantity of hell that I am even capable of explaining at this point. When you said I should have brought that to your attention about Cody Selhorst, there were multiple occasions involving Cody Selhorst that needed to be brought to your attention. That's the reason for taking somebody in with me. Thank goodness Molly Smith went in with me to force Jared Hahn, or Jordan, yes, Jared Hahn, sorry, to actually take a look at that. I am glad that she went in with me. But there was a lot more to it than just that. I have tried repeatedly to get someone to go in with me. People keep saying, "Don't you have family in there yet?" No, I don't. And if I did, they don't fucking care anyway. What about this person? What about that person? You know what? There's a reason I'm going to the cops. There's a reason that I am going to the cops. I have tried these people. Is Laurie going to go in with me to talk to you? Are any of these other people? No. Meanwhile, Laurie was judgmental towards me about situations that, first of all, she wasn't there for, and second of all, she never bothered to look into. She made a bad fucking assumption, just like your officers, just like the cops in Colorado. I have been railroaded from one side of this country to the other. Is there anything you can do for me? Yes, call the FBI. Investigate those officers. I mean, just the fact that Jordan Anderson didn't do his job put myself and others at risk, put our lives at risk because of dangerous criminals and drug dealers and child molesters like Ted Bollinger. Ted Bollinger. Ted Bollinger. I am going to say that name one more time. Ted Bollinger. Ted Bollinger breaks the law because he doesn't give a fuck about anyone but himself. I break the law because police won't do their fucking jobs. Now, Adam Greenman arrested me on the warrant out of Scotts Bluff that I never should have had to begin with, that I was never allowed to write a report about. Adam Greenman, on the way to Scotts Bluff, I gave him as much information as I could about the situation and the amount of time that we had. That should be on his body camera. It should be recorded in his vehicle. I want you to take a look at that.